It's not the only software that we're going to be able to teach in this class. Like I mentioned yesterday, SPSS is one of the software we're going to teach, but we're also able to teach R, right? And one of the advantages of SPSS is its simple interface, the fact that it has this point and click, right? As you can see, it has this point and click that um, helps you to navigate. Basically, you have the file, you can click file just like you have in your Microsoft Word. You have edit, you have view. So basically, SPSS is that makes it quite simple like that, like all those other software. And so we're going to spend the next, you know, several minutes just understanding SPSS. So what we're going to do today is an introduction to SPSS. So there is a PowerPoint slide or PDF that is on the Google Classroom that should walk you through everything that I'm hoping to show you today. Okay. And, so an introduction to SPSS. So that's what we're going to do. So I can't see my screen, so I will not be able to see you most of the time while I am navigating. But sometimes I will try to navigate away so I can fully engage with you. So the things that we're going to talk about today: where to find SPSS, what's the data view versus variable view, how do you define variables in SPSS, what are variable labels, what are value labels, how do you input data, how do you import and export data from Excel. Okay, so where to find SPSS? I'm going to post this link in the chat. Okay, and this link that I post in the chat, I hope that if you're having trouble, if you haven't downloaded SPSS by now, you might be able to quickly install for this class and then come back to join us. So I'm posting it in the chat, but there are multiple other ways to look at SPSS. So I think, Real One, you wanted to share your screen. Okay, can you share your screen quickly so we can get back to the class? Real One?
Yes, okay, let me do it, sir.
Okay. There is a button on the bottom. There's an arrow pointing up. That's the one. Okay, good. That's the one you're going to. Very good.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, so that's the calendar. So if you search in your email, look
Yes.
for welcome. Just if you do a search for welcome,
Okay.
yeah. So there is a different email. This is not the one that you're looking at. Yeah. So that welcome to SPSS to Stats 101. I think I saw it among as you had the drop down. So welcome.
I think I don't have it.
You don't think you have it?
I don't have it.
Okay. All right. So email courses at Stats Clinic, and we can set that up later. Okay.
Okay,
But you
thank
should. That's maybe why. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go back. Someone said they don't have the website. Sorry. Uh, yeah. So it's a trial version that you're going to be able to find. Um, it's a trial version you're going to be able to find on um, on the website. I'm sorry. I think that. Okay. Let me navigate to it very quickly. so you can send something else. Also join the class, unfortunately. Okay, so um, no, the website looks different even from what I had seen recently. Let's see, product. So if you go to product and click SPSS statistics, okay, and once you click that, you follow, there's a try it free option. Um, so you have to register and follow the instructions, but that's basically what it is. Okay, all right, thank you. So let me go back to what I was sharing. All right, so this is what SPSS looks like. And the first thing we're going to do, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. We started a bit late. So I'm going to try to move fairly quickly, but I would also want some of you to demonstrate as we go along. So first thing we're going to do is look at the SPSS data editor. So this interface on SPSS is the data editor, okay? And it has um, two views. So there is a data view and there is the variable view. And what this means essentially is that when you put in a data set into SPSS, say you have a data set that is pre-prepared, that is sent to you, right? If you, on the data view, you can see it looks like an Excel sheet. Very simple, looks like an Excel sheet, okay? And it will have the name of the variable at the top of as the column name, and you'll have all the information mentioned. So you can have as many columns as possible. And the numbering for each one indicates the row. Okay, this indicates the row. If you remember in elementary school or high school, as you sit, that's the row, and the line in which you sit, facing the board, that's the row. Okay. And then you also have the variable view. The variable view takes one column from here. So if you take one column from here, let's say age, you will take that column of age and you will describe it in much detail. So essentially that age will now be a row here. You will describe it in detail and you can add the name of the color of the variable, what type of variable it is, its width, decimal. So all of that information, there are 11 characteristics that you can use to define a variable. So you will have all of that information in the variable view. So like I said again, in SPSS, you have two views. You have the data view, which looks like a simple Excel. And if you click on the bottom here, on the bottom left, you can change the view. So here on the bottom left, when you change to data view on the next you can just click this next variable view here next to it, and that shows you what each variable looks like. Okay, so each variable must have a unique name, and that's the thing about it. It's the same in SPSS, it's the same in R. When you're thinking about data, so you cannot have two variables both called age. You have to name them differently. And so you might have age as one, maybe age continuous, and then age categorical or something. And people would usually use something like age cat, age GRP, which is for age group, and the like. Okay. So that's how we make a distinction between the different kinds of age. All right. And it's always good to use informative names or to have a sort of formula that is easy for you to remember. So usually something like age cat for categorical, age CONT for continuous, and the same thing for So some people will, if you have something like gender, instead of using saying gender and then have one be male, two be female, one way that we usually do it is name the variable as female, and then female, that means then it will be one, and then the zero will be male, assuming that you don't have any other genders, right? And so these are some, you have to have a formula that you would develop on your own and use consistently, okay? And remember that continuous variables. So what are continuous variables? Anyone want to remind us? Quickly, anyone wants to remind us what continuous variables are?
Variables that can be expressed in decimals.
Variables that can be expressed in decimals, as opposed to
Expressed in
count.
decimals.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. How about count variables? Anyone else? What are count variables? And give us an example.
They are discrete, like number of children, number of
Number of,
observations in the group, number
yes,
of
very good.
objects, number of
They cannot,
male.
yeah, so they cannot be split into, yeah, they cannot be split into fractions. Very good. So those are count variables, and this distinction is important to remember. Okay, so what are categorical variables? Does someone else wants to try it? I like for people, as many people as possible, to participate in the class. So Halima, yeah.
Categorical variable is a quantitative variable.
Okay, so give
And
us
it
an
is
example of a categorical variable.
example of categorical variable. For example, the color of
Color.
maybe the eyes.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. How about BMI?
Also, the categorical
Body mass
variable,
index.
ordinal
Ordinal, okay.
and nominal variable.
And nominal categorical. Excellent. Thank you very much. So um so once we know what these different kinds of variables are, so we want to know the variable names. Okay, we want to know the variable names, and we want to know the type of variables. And so in SPSS, there's count, there's a numeric variable which can either be continuous, count, or categorical variables that you name in different ways, or there are string variables, okay, which are the character variables. All right. So one way to do this is that I can create some of these variables for you, so you can see basically what I'm talking about. Okay. Um, so let's say we want to create a variable in SPSS, and we can call that variable age. Okay. And so it already assumes that this variable is numeric, and in this case, it's correct. And it creates a width of 8. So if we assume that age, it's not like for a person's age to be 1 million. So we can leave that, but it can be fewer than that. The width can be maybe 3 or 5, so that's, and then we can have decimals if necessary, and we can label very important for variables, because it helps you to, because the variable name cannot usually be long, but the label can be long. It can have spaces. The variable name cannot have spaces. If it has spaces, then, I mean, it can have spaces, but it's not ideal. It creates additional complications. All right, so so label, we can call it age of participant. So this is descriptive enough so that you can actually have it can be a sentence, you can have information. Okay. And yes, I think someone hands up.
Sorry, please. Is there a way you can zoom in your screen or expand your screen? The writings are really small.
It's really small. Okay, let's see. No. Edit.
You can maximize the from this thing.
From where?
From
There's
this
supposed to
tab here, you should maximize it up.
viewer or what? No. So
Hello.
yes. Hi. So I'm not sure why my keyboard is not responding. It's because if you do Control plus, it should ordinarily zoom in. And when you come to options, it's supposed to be a zoom here, and I can't find it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what to do to increase the zoom. Sorry. That's very strange. Yeah, I haven't used SPSS in a while, as you can see. I'm not on this computer.
Can you try views on the view tab?
Yeah, I have tried that. Maybe toolbar. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't have a zoom that's easy to find. Anyway, let's keep going. I will investigate this for later, and yeah, because I don't want us to miss out on actually getting through this stuff. The probably next class, I'll make sure that I'll figure out how to do this. Yeah, I can't even get my mind off of it. Okay, all right. So let me share my screen, a different tab. Or I could just share my screen. All right, so in SPSS, therefore, you have different kinds of variables, and it's important to know what these different variable types are. And some of these types, as we've mentioned, I've mentioned numeric, but these numeric, continuous, count, categorical, this is fairly straightforward. But SPSS has some other variable types that we don't typically think about in statistics. Like they're not types for the analysis per se, but there are ways that the software codes the variable type. So for instance, a string or character variable is a variable that is likely text, but definitely the software treats it as text. So it could be the name of a city, Lagos, Kigali, or it might be if a number, but the software is not treating it as a number, so you cannot multiply it by something. Like if you do that, it will change the variable type. Something like a phone number, it expects that you're keeping that text almost like it's taking a picture of the text and keeping it the form that it is. So it doesn't have decimals, or so unlike a numeric variable, it is assuming that it might have 0.00 as a decimal, especially if it's continuous. Okay, so these are just things to bear in mind in different kinds of variables. So you want to know what kind of variable it is when you're creating the variable name or creating the type of the variable. Okay, so and there's also dates, and that's also a type of variable that you want to bear in mind. And all of this, when you're creating the variable, you want to specify the type of the variable, and we'll see it as we go along. I also talked about the width briefly. So the width is the number of items that it expects or characters that it expects that the variable can have. Okay, so age could be 3 digits, but maybe salary could be 6 digits or 8 digits or 9 digits, depending on what you expect of the variable that you're dealing with. Okay, so that's the width, and this is the width here. I showed that earlier as well when we were looking at SPSS. So I think I went too further along. Okay, so that's width. We all know what decimals, whether how many decimal places are these, whether zeros. But the variable label is the other thing that I talked about briefly. It's a descriptor, and you can usually type that in this space right here. You can type that in this space, the variable label. Okay. And so it's a descriptor for the variable. Here you're going to say, okay, this is what this variable is, and you have up to 255 characters for the variable label, but usually you don't need that. Okay, usually you don't need all that. Okay, and then the value label are the descriptors of the categories. So say you're creating a categorical variable where 1 is yes and 0 is no. You can, in SPSS, you can code the value labels in the in your description of the variable. Okay, and then SPSS wants you to specify how to treat missing values. So, for instance, if smoking is missing, you might want that smoking to be written as 999, or you might want smoking to be written as a dot, or you might want it to be written as an NA. So SPSS knows how to treat whenever it sees that number, it knows, or that character, it knows that it is a missing value. Okay. And the missing value has a lot of implications for how you do your analysis, and we can talk about that as we go along. Okay. The other next one is this column and the align. I don't know why my mouse is not highlighting on the screen. Today, I'm just having a lot of different tech problems. Not highlight. I want to change the pointer. So maybe, okay. So columns and align. So I'm just trying to describe each of these to you so you can see. So these relate to how the variable appears in the data view. Okay, so the column sets the amount of space reserved to display the contents of the variable, and then the align is just so whether it's aligned in one direction or the other. And you can define whether your variable is one of the following, whether it's a scale that includes a numeric variable, whether it's ordinal and nominal. So you want to tell SPSS everything about this variable. Okay. And then you can define the role, of the variable in your analysis. That this is something that we can talk about as we go along. All right. So if you were to look at something like age, okay, which is a numeric variable, and you create a width of 3, and you're saying that you don't want any decimals. I mean, age could have decimals, but you don't want decimals in this case. And you want the label to be age in years. Okay. And because it's a numeric variable, you might not want value labels. Okay, because it just you don't want to specify value labels, so leave it as none. And you want missing to be 999, right? Because in this case, if a person is 99 or 9, if you use that as missing, you might run into trouble. Okay, I mean, obviously because it's age. And you want 5 columns in the data view, and then you want to align right or align left. So this is how it would look when you will be the one to type in all of this in your SPSS, just like I was doing a moment ago. So let's look at that in SPSS. Okay. I'm going to share just the SPSS alone, so it can be a bit bigger. I'm sharing the wrong thing.
Yes, it's showing the trial version.
Yeah.
You share a window.
Yes. Okay. All right. So this is what SPSS will then look like. So can somebody give us a variable, and then we can play around with it by creating the variable characteristics? Someone just one variable, maybe color.
Gender.
Is that gender?
ID.
Okay, let's go with gender. Okay, gender. Why is it? All right, gender. And is gender a numeric variable or not? What kind of variable is gender?
I
Is it
think
It's
it's
string.
string.
It's a string, but
This ring, yeah.
So
Ring.
okay? Okay, let's go with string.
Senate.
Okay, so
Sorry,
the width we can leave the width as 8. There's no decimals, so we can label and call it, say, gender of participants. Okay. So what do we do about values?
we can do male equals to 1, female female equals to 1, male equals to 2. So
Okay. Male equals 1, male equals 2. Okay. Okay, so we can do this. And my preference is usually to do 1 and 0 for male and female, but this is okay as well. Missing.
sorry, how did you put that in?
Okay, so you click here. Sorry, I'm going too fast. So if you click for values, if you click on so you see these 3 dots, this ellipsis in the corner of the column, right? If you click this ellipsis, then it will open this. You have this window pop up. Oh, you're not seeing the window. I see. Okay, all right.
Yes, we are not.
Okay. Okay, all right. So I have to share my screen. I have to share my screen, full screen. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
that's
Much
can
better.
see that. But can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so seeing that we selected gender as string, are we able to make gender numeric and then probably label them under label under, okay, no, under values. Is that possible? Will that
It's
work?
possible. It's completely up to you. It's completely up to you what to do. You can call it email. So this is what I usually will do. I will say female, right? You can label it as a numeric, and you can have it as maybe 2 with whatever, just 0 decimals. And here you say female versus female gender, and then you can say versus male. Okay. And for values, you will say, I clicked in the wrong box. For values, you will say female, values 1 for female. And the reason why I do this, this is what we do most often in maternal and child health, because most of our participants are females anyway. So whenever you have to do gender, you will do the female as 1 and male as 0. And you can use this for analysis. The challenge is that you have to remember that this is what you did. Okay. You have to remember that this is what you did because you're not using the natural setting. And this approach, using numeric as female, can be useful for some analysis. Okay. But you always have to remember what you did. That's the ultimate. Okay. All right. So that's how you create the value labels, and that's how you create the variable description. And based on this, if you go to the data view now, you'll see that we have 3 variables at the top here. Okay. So age, gender, and we also have female, which is another, I mean, you saw how. And based on this now, if you have your data set and you were entering by hand, okay, you could enter the age. Let's say you're looking at 5-year-olds, and you could say 4, and this one is 3.25, that's their age, and another person is 2.27, that's their age, if you were entering by hand. Okay, and for gender, remember that we said that 1 for female and 2 for male, right? But for female here, for female here, we said that you want 1 and 0. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, now let's go back to the PowerPoint that we were looking at. Okay, so the PowerPoint says create a numeric variable for ID. So does someone want to quickly walk us through that on their screen? Anybody wants to try it? Say you have a trial and your participant ID is, for one person, is 10001, which is 5 digits, and another one is 10002. So
So you can see your
yeah, I'm not showing my.
This guy wake up. My lady wake up. He's still sleeping. Go and make a call.
Okay, all right. So you should play around with that example, but I'm just going to go on and show you the next thing. So we have seen how to create the variables in SPSS. We have also seen what the variable is, how to define them, and how to enter them. So if you're going to enter the data by hand in SPSS, you can enter. Let's say you have collected a questionnaire, and I remember the first time I used SPSS, I had collected data in the questionnaire, and then I entered the whole thing in SPSS by hand, right? So that's one thing. You could enter directly in SPSS. You will create the variable like this and then enter the information like this. So SPSS now knows. So if this is 300 participants, you will enter all their information in SPSS and then you can start the analysis. Okay? And then you can start the analysis. So there's a lot that you can do, but the first thing to do, to know how to do, is figure out where does the data go, what's the variable level view, what's the data view, and but that's not all that you want to be able to do in SPSS. The next thing that you want to be able to do in SPSS, and I'm going to share my screen again, is to be able to import data. Okay, be able to import data. That's the next thing you're going to want to be able to do. Okay, so I'm going to make it smaller, and because I realized that the SPSS, you're not even able to see the full screen anyway. So after the class, you should be able to go through the PowerPoint slides and follow the steps that I just showed you. Okay. So I've showed you where to enter data, and the next thing I want to show you is how to import. Okay, how to import the data. So let's assume that someone gives you a data set and says that this is data, and can you import this data into your SPSS? Okay. Something you might be able to do is if you had data that was in CSV file and you want to import it into SPSS, okay, that data that's in CSV file, you need to know what file it is, what file type it is. That's the first step. And based on knowing the file type that it is, you can choose in SPSS which how to import, what you want to, and you'll see that in a moment. And the different kinds of file types that you have will determine how you import. And it's very simple. If you already know how to use Microsoft Word, then you should be able to import data into SPSS. And the reason why I'm taking some time is that I'm trying to, I want to have an example data set, and we have example data sets in Google Classroom that you can download. Okay, and so I want to download onto my computer as well so that I can show you how to do this. Okay. So my usual computer does not have SPSS, and I've had to borrow this one, so to speak. It's the same one, it's a different setup basically, and that's why. Okay, all right. So how to import? So as I was saying, it's very simple to import in SPSS. You just go to File at the top of the screen, okay, and import. Okay, File and import data. Now you have different kinds of databases that you can choose from: Excel, CSV, text, SAS, data. But I see it doesn't have R, so that's kind of sus. Anyway, so you can choose the kind of data, and you can play around with it a little bit, but it's much the same way. If you choose whatever software you choose, you can come back and you can go to the depending on where you expect the data to be on your computer. So in this case, I expect it to be in my downloads because I just downloaded the file. So it's not there, so it's not an Excel file, so it's something else, so it's CSV. So now I see this file, I can double click or click open. Either of those will work. And so it's generating a preview. So now it's asking me what to do next. Okay. So it says, welcome to the text import wizard. Does your text file match a predefined format? So I can browse and say which type of format it is. But in this case, I'm just going to say no and move forward and ask how are your variables arranged? Is it delimited, i.e., does it have, how we have these lines in Excel? So that's delimited in some form, either tab, delimited, or and the like. So are the variable names included at the top of your file? Yes. So what line number contains them? So you remember how your CSV file or your Excel file looks. The variable name is usually at the top. So that's basically all the question that it's asking. And the reason it's asking you all these questions is because it's not assuming. Okay, it's not assuming. So sometimes you have flexibility as to where a variable name might be. It might be on the second column, and it will basically tell it where to look. Okay. So in this case, so what's the period symbol? Is it a period? What's the decimal symbol? Is it a period or a comma? In most cultures, the decimal symbol is a period, but in some cultures, it's a comma. So you need to know what exactly it is. In this case, we're using the decimal as a period or the dot. So it's asking us small questions. Where does the data begin? Is it on line 2? How many cases do you want to import? So do you want to import all of them, or do you want to import a certain, maybe just the first 6 or the first 1,000 or something like that? So in this case, we just say all. So we're not changing anything. Okay. In this case, we haven't changed anything. So if you just accept the defaults and just click through after choosing CSV in the beginning, we have not changed anything, and just keep going next. And now it's asking us about the variable names. Okay. So for SBP, it's asking us the formats. You can change the format. So it's saying automatic. Basically, SPSS is figuring it out itself, or you can decide either you want it to be a numeric variable or do you want it to be a string variable. Okay, and you can change the variable type. Do you think it's a date or time? So this, when you're importing, you can make those changes. Okay. Next, after SBP, you have successfully defined the format of your text file. Okay, so you can also look at the other variables. So here, say the certain variables that you want to make sure that, because they are date variables, you want to make sure that they're correctly preserved. You can click through this file, okay, and change the variable, and based on that, change the format of the variable. So here it has chosen automatic, but you can tell it actually this is a string. Don't make that mistake. Or you can tell it that actually, this is a date or time variable. Okay, so you can make all these changes based on what you expect the variable to be. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to automatic, and you can ask it not to import as well, as you can see. So if you play around with SPSS, importing the data and the like, that's the first thing to do, is to be able to create the variable import data. And then you click next. So it says you have successfully defined the format of your file. Would you like to save this file format for future use? You don't need to do that. So you can just ignore and accept the defaults. And then it's asked, would you like to paste the syntax? Okay, so SPSS has its own code. Okay, but it's not something that most people use. Most people who use SPSS use it for the point and click. So I'm just going to assume that, and so accept the defaults and click finish. And so based on that, we have a new SPSS window, and we have this SPSS viewer. This is where all the analysis is going to come. And it's basically just telling us what we just did. But this is the data set that we just imported. It has 3 variables: SBP, systolic blood pressure, the treatment, and it also has a treatment written in a different way. Okay, so treatment here and then TRT. The treatment here is a string variable, and this one's a numeric variable. So sometimes, you know, it's helpful to have two forms of the same variable, especially if you think you would heavily use that variable for analysis. And that allows you to make modifications as you go. But the important thing is to make sure that you don't make errors as you're transforming from one form of the variable to the next. Okay? So this is how you import. And based on the importing that you then did, you can do analysis, right? So as a quick example, we can create descriptive statistics in SPSS. Okay. So let's say that you want to, let's say you're interested in the means, median, and the like in SPSS. So if you want the mean of the systolic blood pressure, okay, let me do that again so you can see. And this is just to whet your appetite. We're going to wrap up now. But essentially what I just showed you today is about variables and the structure of SPSS, and the very first tasks that you can do import, which is potentially one of the most important things that you do in SPSS: import the data, create the variable, the data set from scratch. But if you wanted to do the analysis and you were interested in the mean, right, you will come to tables and then you go to compare means and proportions. You can create the means here, okay? And if you wanted frequencies, you can go to the descriptive statistics and create frequencies. Okay, so I wanted to play around with your SPSS for a while over the course of this week. And then when we come back next week, we can actually go into the statistics that we learned in class this past week and the things that we're going to learn this week. How are you going to create them in SPSS? And you should play around with creating variables and importing data sets. And yeah. All right. Any quick questions?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Am I being heard? Okay.
We can hear you.
I just want to get clarifications with regards to importing data. So most times when I import data into SPSS, I will still have to go and rename the values. So I want to ask, is there anywhere I can export data from Excel or CSV data and the value will just automatically be captured, or do I still have to name all the values across? But just want to get that help. Thank you.
No, so there's no way, because CSV and Excel do not store the value labels, right? They're not made in the same way as SPSS or R or this statistical analysis. So that's the challenge. So you always, the important thing you're bringing in is the data. You still have to set up the value labels yourself, the labels and the like. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, so I'm going to have to jump off now, unfortunately. Thank you very much for joining the session. If you have more questions, we can take them next week. And, we will quickly revise again the things that I've shown you today, and then we might play around with some more data to do the analysis that we've taught yesterday and the things we're going to teach next week in SPSS. And yeah, so thank you very much for coming. I will see you next week.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.